Let's bring in Rob Vanstone now from the Regina Leader Post. RV, thanks for sitting through that. How are you, my friend?
Not too bad, Rod. How you doing? Hi, Darren.
Hey.
Good. Happy belated birthday. You just celebrated one this week, did you not?
Yeah, 56 on March 30th. So,
Whoa.
Congratulations. Congratulations on making it that far.
Yeah, it's an interesting birthday. I remember when my dad turned 56. I remember thinking, "Jeez, is he old?" July 1st, 1976, and it just seemed like 56 was 106 at that point. And so that was the first thing that occurred to me around 3:40 a.m. on March 30th when I formally hit 56. So now we're shooting for 57.
I remember my dad's 50th. My dad's 50th. We gave him a walker made out of hockey sticks and a hat that said,
"Oh, cool,
50 and nifty." And I thought, he's ancient. I hope we have him for a couple more years. That's what the young people think of 50s. Anyways, Darren has a point for you.
No, I was going to ask you, Rob, happy birthday. And who was the greatest happy birthday from? Because I saw Cody Fajardo had a happy birthday tweet for you, too. So that was pretty cool.
That was really nice. I wished him a happy birthday the day before. He's a March 29th baby. So I sent him a note on Twitter the day before wishing him a happy birthday, and he was kind enough to reciprocate the following day. Sorry for my voice. And I think my favorite was from my wife. I know that sounds like I'm trying to earn some brownie points, but when I look at everything she's done for me lately, it's just it's amazing. My wife is basically keeping me alive the way the last 3 or 4 months have gone. So to hear that from my wife, especially this is the first birthday without my mom. And my mom died December 11th. And I know, Rod, you've been through way too much of that lately yourself. And it's just a different birthday when you don't have your mom to wish you a happy birthday. And this is the first time that's ever happened. She'd always sing me happy birthday on my birthday. So to wake up thinking I'm going to be in a bit of a desultory mood, and just to realize, and I count my blessings a bit and realize what I still have to be very grateful for, and the support of my wife, who's basically kept the blood flowing through the arteries these last few weeks and months, was probably the most gratifying. And Cody was really cool too. So.
Good to hear. RV, you watch the show. We love having the guests on from home, and I'm just looking over your shoulder at those framed Leader Post front pages there. What are some of the ones that you've got that mean so much to you? What are they?
Oh, goodness. What is back there? Those were ones that Mom framed. I guess I'm in a mom phase today, but I do a mock interview with Santa Claus every year on Christmas, so she framed one of those. A story was done on my book on the 66 Rough Riders, so there's that. I did a big retro. The one beside it with the rosters and the export logo above. That was another page of that. I had somebody gave me a program that they had signed on the flight back from Vancouver from the 66 Grey Cup that all the Rough Rider players had signed. Phyllis Schwann gave me that, a great lady. So that is up there. And then the one on the far right, I did a story a number of years ago on my autograph collection. And there's autographed pictures of Gary Carter. The one you can see, I don't know, below the photo of the two people, it's a written description by Bobby Thompson describing his home run in 1951 for the New York Giants. I wrote him a letter back in 1982, asked him to describe that home run, and he did. And that was a real treasure. So that is there as well. There's Johnny Unitas. There's Jimmy Carter. There's some really cool autographs. I'll have to get a Rod Pedersen to do a sequel.
Right.
And a Darren DuPont.
To the topics at hand, RV, we'll get to Saskatoon, Quarantine City. I love the sound of it. With regards to a shortened CFL season, Jason in Red Deer writes in, he says, a shortened season certainly doesn't favor the Riders since Caleros is usually good for missing about 10 to 12 games with an injury. Jason, Caleros plays for Winnipeg. So from that side, it actually benefits Winnipeg because there's less of a chance of Zach Caleros getting hurt. Let's just say in a 9-game sprint, RV, who's the favorite team? How does that change things?
Well, I think it would favor the Rough Riders, actually. It might be beneficial to the Bombers, but I look at it from the standpoint of the Saskatchewan Rough Riders and the continuity that they've been able to establish even given the prevalence of one-year contracts, they were able, with a few exceptions, to bring back a considerable part of their nucleus, or to re-sign a considerable part of their nucleus. And so I think they're, in a better situation as far as hitting the ground running, if need be, than a team that has more questions or more turnover or a new coaching staff. So I think the continuity would really work advantageously for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, because if you're going to have a shortened season, you're probably going to have a condensed training camp. You may or may not have an exhibition season. So I think you need more known quantities and known commodities, and I think you need players who are familiar with the coaches, and conversely. So in a short sprint, I'll go with what I know, and I think that that's really favorable for a team that, despite the transitory nature of players and the player movement in the CFL these days, they did an exceptional job of maintaining that nucleus, and that would really benefit them if it's a 9-game, 10-game, 11-game, 12-game sprint to the finish.
I'm starting to get sold on the Riders as being a team this favors in a big way. That's great. I mean, you're such a historian with the league, Rob. When's the last time, have we ever gone through something like this? You know, when it comes to the CFL, not just all sports, but this league, in terms of big, heavy question marks hanging over the league in terms of, you know, potentially starting on time or shortening or not knowing what's going to happen?
Well, short of a labor disruption, I mean, there were a few. Remember the last two collective bargaining agreements? I think people, or the negotiations, people thought they might be contentious and they might impact the season. It turns out they didn't. But aside from the First and Second World Wars, that's the only real precedent. 2 years in the late 1910s and 1942 to 1944, there were service teams during that period of time, but there wasn't formally a Regina Roughriders or a Western Interprovincial Rugby Union or teams out east. So short of global conflict, that's what we're facing. This would be the first time since 1945 that there were any Roughrider games that were canceled, believe it or not.
RV, we have a viewer in North Vancouver, John O'Flynn. He's a new viewer, but he says, our thoughts on the BC Lions being able to compete in a shortened season. They're coming back from a 5th place finish, as you know, new coaching staff. Where do you think the Lions, let's use that 9-game scenario, where do you think they might fit in? Those teams would have a chance too, I would think.
Yeah.
Well, I think Mike Riley plus Rick Campbell is massive. If you look at a lot of the things that went wrong with the BC Lions last year, coaching was a major issue. That was not a strong coaching staff top down. And they addressed that quite emphatically by hiring Rick Campbell. And over the second half of last season, they were able to resolve some of the problems that they, not completely eradicate, but at least resolve some of the issues that had plagued them with regard to the offensive line. So if you can give Mike Riley protection, and you've got some pretty good targets there, they've got Brian Burnham, they've added Dominique Rhymes, etc. That offense could be pretty potent pretty quickly. And with the kind of direction that Rick Campbell is going to provide, I think that's a team that really can really ascend.
Your thoughts on Saskatoon, quarantine city? And I don't know if you were watching earlier, Sean Simpson from TSN Ottawa saying the NHL is talking about Saskatoon is a bubble city, is what they're using the term for the NBA, bringing the teams in and resuming the regular season there. What do you think?
Boy, I think it's a really tall order no matter where you ask people to gather, given the climate these days. I'm not sure that what kind of receptiveness there would even be on the part of the general public to suddenly turn out, attend a venue where there's thousands of people, if not tens of thousands of people. That's what concerns me. You might be able to say that there's a greater prevalence of COVID-19 in BC or Quebec, and you might want to move one of those games to Saskatchewan. But as we've seen, especially this week, the first deaths in the province, sadly, we're not immune from it. The numbers might be a little lower and they might be a little more manageable according to some. But until those numbers are zero across the board, even if you put a game in a venue, will people show up to attend, given all the uncertainty in the world? I think there's going to be a real wariness. Even when the all clear is given, there's a couple of factors at play. One, I think the paranoia is too strong a word, but the concern that people are going to have, and B, or two, once we come out of this, how many people or companies have the economic wherewithal to just resume business as usual? There are small businesses, especially, that are under extreme threat right now. There are people who, today's April 1st, I'm sure there's tons of people wondering how to pay the bills. So say in July, August, maybe June, suddenly everything, we can resume a semblance of a normal life. I think there's economic circumstances that may dictate against people flocking to a venue. I don't think you can flip that switch instantly. So I'd be really wary of having a game, no matter where you have it, simply because people say, well, it's not as bad there as it is there. It's bad everywhere as long as this virus is in existence and is still spreading.
All opinions are being observed and respected, but I would say this. You look at the map of where the cases are, it's all around the outside of North America for the most part. And it's moving in, but Saskatchewan, the prairies, and North Dakota, Montana, all virtually clear. And I would say this, the threat of the disease is there, but the threat of the restrictions is major too. We're teetering on anarchy, by the way. I mean, people might die of starvation that can't feed themselves because they've been laid off. That's a whole other thing. Wait till you see the crime stats of where this is right now. Now, but on to happier topics. Do you have anything on that, by the way?
No,
okay, fine. RV, as the longtime Pats fan as you are, like me, your thoughts on Connor Bedard coming to the Queen City and what it means?
That is absolutely sensational for not only for the Regina Pats, but I think for the Western Hockey League to have a player who's got that marquee value right off the bat. And the Winnipeg Ice, you're gonna see that as well. With Savoy coming in as a 16-year-old this coming season, to have him and Connor Bedard at 15 in the league at the same time. I think one of the problems the league is facing profile-wise is there's no superstars. You remember growing up, and you could go to a game and it seemed every team had a marquee player coming in. Look at 30 years ago, if Swift Current came in, there's Joe Sakic, there's Sheldon Kennedy. If the Moose Jaw Warriors came in, my goodness, Theron Fleury is going to put on a great show. It seemed everybody had some stars that you could build the game around. It wasn't just watching your own team, it's who are you playing? And I think across the board, the teams and the players have become pretty anonymous. There's not a real superstar culture in the Western Hockey League. So suddenly there's not only in Regina, where people are going to get to watch this amazing player for at least 3 years, but elsewhere, it's like Connor Bedard is coming to town. I think that's going to be an energizing factor for the entire league. As far as the Pats, considering what's happened the last 2 seasons, to have a player, even at 15, who's going to create a buzz and have some tongues wagging, and that's monstrous. I can't imagine a rookie camp being more interesting in Pat's history than it will be late August, early September. The blue and white game will be an event this year. Preseason games, which are usually perfunctory, are now the first chance to get to see Connor Bedard playing against anyone. So this roadshow, this traveling roadshow that the Pats are going to have for the next few years is going to be compelling, not only here but everywhere. And I think it's going to help major junior hockey, at least in the western part of the country and the United States, very, very significantly. It's a real, especially sometimes when you've got a rebuilding team like the Pats have had the last couple of years, at least you can look at that team and say, okay, we're rebuilding, but we're rebuilding with young players, and that kid's going to be amazing, and that kid's going to be amazing. They haven't really had that phenom as part of their rebuilding program. John Paddock's done a great job of putting some pieces in place, and they're going to have some players, especially a couple of years from now, I think, who are going to be exceptional or very good, but they don't have that Sam Steele type of player, that Jordan Eberle, Dennis Sobchuk, Dale Durkach, Fran Huck, Bill Hickey. That's what they have now, and that's going to be a real interesting thing to follow for until probably I'm pushing 60. So.
RV, could you save Clark the time so he doesn't have to go to Google? What does perfunctory mean? Save me the time too.
Sort of obligatory. You have to have these games, and they're necessary evils. And so let's just play them and get them over with. And you might not even have them in your own arena because not enough people are going to show up to the Brandt Center to watch an exhibition game. So you might have to have it at the Cooperator Center. Let's just get through them and get to the regular season. Well, suddenly you're going to have preseason games that are just magnetic because if this kid is playing in them.
Can you imagine the vacillations around such a scenario?
I learned that word from Howard Cosell. He used it on Monday Night Football in the late 70s, and Don Meredith asked him what vacillations mean. It was a great segment during a really bad second half of a blowout, and Don Meredith and Howard Cosell went on and on about vacillations. How's that for useless trivia?
Thank you as always. Stay safe, my friend, and can't wait to see you on the other side of this.
It will be so nice to see everybody. The sequestering has gone on for far too long. I hope everything's well with you and your family, and as well, Darren, and everybody who's watching your show. Take care.
You bet. Thanks, Rob. Rob Vanstone joining us from the Regina Leader-Post.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.